Liverpool's midfield is the biggest question mark going into 25-26. Some players look like starters, on the other hand, some players barely fit the system. This is your complete guide to Liverpool's midfield. Next season, the full breakdown, the analysis, if you will. The only video you will need, in my opinion, regarding Liverpool's midfield going into next season. We're doing a full keep or sell and loan as well. We're talking about how Slot's midfield could line up in the league compared to the Cup. We're talking about which players might quietly be on their way out as well and maybe have a future elsewhere. It's very interesting. I'm going to just run you through the slides and how it's going to work. It's a full keep or sell, right? But I'm going to veer off into different things. For example, let's just go back to the start here. I've got loads to go through. I'm really excited to go through it. So we're going to start with Ryan Gravenberch. Then we're going to look at the team, how it's going to set up out of possession and in possession. Then we're going to move to the rotation pair with maybe Bajcetic and veer off into that kind of regard. Then a cup rotation midfield. McAllister, a bit on Jones, a bit on that partnership with McAllister and Gravenberch, Harvey Elliott, a bit on Szoboszlai. We've got loads to go through, and I really hope you enjoy. It's taken a while to put all this together. I want to start. I don't know why I've blurred that out, because you can literally see exactly who everyone is. What George, what are you thinking? Let's just start. We're going to start with Ryan Gravenberch. With Szoboszlai pushing higher up the pitch, certainly off the ball, and Wirtz operating as a forward, the new signing coming in, Gravenberch may play deeper than ever next season. I mean, for me, dropping into a back three. And a lot of people mishear what I'm saying or misunderstand what I'm saying there. Look at the bottom picture now. Let's move that out of the way. Gravenberch, it looks like a back three. It looks like we're playing a three-back, guys. No, he's just a midfield player being more conservative, certainly more conservative than McAllister and Szoboszlai. He's not going to be that rigid on the pitch, playing in a back three, receiving the ball off the goalkeeper every single time. That's not how it's going to work, but he is going to be the more conservative and deeper of the midfield three. So on the ball, I think we're going to play the bottom one there. And off the ball, I think it'll be something like the top one, but I think Szoboszlai will be the one to progress forward and join that front press with maybe Florian Wirtz. We're just focusing on that midfield three here, and at this point, Gravenberch. Slot's system demands discipline from his deepest midfielder. Gravenberch's tackling, it still isn't elite for me, but his press resistance is, and it's about playing to your strengths. And I do think that role there, someone who can keep the ball, it's like literally the most important position on the pitch to keep the ball, right? If Gravenberch loses the ball, there's no one behind him to back him up. Apart from maybe Van Dijk, well, obviously Van Dijk and Konate, but if you're in these central zones and you lose the ball after receiving it off one of your centre-backs, they've scored. It's like it's the most obvious chance, the most easy chance they could get in the game. It's so important for you to be press-resistant, and Szoboszlai arguably is the most press-resistant midfielder in our team, and one of the most in the league, I would say. He's so good, so you play to his strengths. You don't make him go win the ball in midfield. As I mentioned here, like last season, a 56.8 duel success rate, and that definitely declined after January when he played a lot of games. But you play to his strengths. You don't make him go and step up into midfield and win duels like maybe a Konate would or maybe an Endo would and try and put out the fire at the source. Gravenberch is so good at intercepting the ball and breaking up passing lanes, is so intelligent. Play to his strengths and put him there. I think it's a really good role for him. A lot of people saying they want to see Gravenberch and McAllister in a two in front of Van Dijk and Konate like we saw this year just gone. I just think with Frimpong so attacking, look at my bottom picture there. Frimpong getting forward, Kirk is doing the same thing. You can't allow two players in there to hold. I think you need one and maybe two in front, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe while you're down there. Loads to come. He's suspended for game week 1. That should say Crystal Palace, not Wolves. But he's likely to start the majority of games. We'll do a separate video on that first week, who I think should play there. I think McAllister will just play. I think that's as simple as it gets. He keeps the ball well under pressure, but needs help defensively. I expect McAllister to stay close. I don't think it'll be that pivot that we saw this year with them two. I think it'll be Gravenberch on his own, with McAllister perhaps closer to him than Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai, as I mentioned, pressing onto that front four. We'll do a separate bit on Szoboszlai in a second. This is where the luxury comes of having Stefan Bajcetic back in the team. Yeah, we had Endo last year, and Endo, we ultimately could have rested Gravenberch last year for Endo. I think it was an option. But it's not about Bajcetic being good enough to play in the team. It's about him being good enough to play in the style, in the system. Bajcetic fits our system better than Endo. He's better on the ball. He's a more similar player to Gravenberch. He's very good intercepting play, whereas Endo's quite an aggressive player. As I mentioned, he likes to put the fire out at source, but Gravenberch likes to stop it spreading. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's a much easier transition to go from Gravenberch to Bajcetic than Gravenberch to Endo. And we'll talk about these two, how they both fit in the side in a minute. Endo at the top and Bajcetic at the bottom. As a possible DM rotation in the Cup, I would personally like to see Stefan Bajcetic come in there. Slot's already confirmed he gets a full pre-season. Well, at least an attempt at it after loan spells at Las Palmas and Salzburg. I think we can all agree, guys, the Las Palmas loan was the most successful of the two. I don't think much really worked at Salzburg for anyone. Certainly not the manager is now at Man City, assistant coach, Pep Lijnders. But Las Palmas, he had a really good relationship with the fella from, I forgot his name, from Chelsea in midfield, two young players. They had a good relationship there. Maybe something that could be continued into a relationship with McAllister, you know what I mean? Something like that. At his best, he was composed under pressure, good positional awareness, and he's still only young. Like, this guy's going to improve, hence why I'd favour him over Endo, because he's the young guy. You want to see him as the future successor. It sounds weird saying successor of Gravenberch, because Gravenberch is hardly any older, do you know what I mean? But you get my point. My point stands, he's the younger player. You want to put your stocks into this player and give him the most game time to progress, whereas Endo probably hasn't got long left, I'd say. We'll come on to Endo in a second. He showed huge maturity in that season, defensive duels and build-up. Look at the Everton game and Real Madrid, and he's proven it in big games before. Endo has definitely proven it in big games before, Arsenal, but again, it's about who do you want to put your stocks in, and for me, it's Bajcetic, and he actually is the guy ahead of Endo in my team, in my squad planner. I've got at the end, I'll show you that at the end. He could rotate with Endo in the Cups or even feature in the Premier League, in my opinion. I think he's going to play alongside maybe Jones and McAllister in the Cup. Actually, I don't want to spoil that because, in fact, we'll spoil it now. That's the Cup rotation midfield I think I'll play. Ignore the players around. They'll rotate whoever. I just think Bajcetic, Jones, we'll come on to in a sec, and McAllister offers a really good balance. I think you got a lot of control in that midfield. You've got the kind of box-to-box runs from Jones. I think Jones might fill in on the right-hand side this year. We'll talk about Jones in a sec. And McAllister's got that class. That could be anyone. That could be McAllister. It could be Szoboszlai or even Gravenberch maybe further up. I really like the idea of Bajcetic this season, and I hope he has a good pre-season because he deserves some game time. I think he's a quality player, and I've got so much time for him. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments on Stefan Bajcetic. We then come on to Wataru Endo. He's publicly stated recently that he wants to stay, and he's going to stay. He's got no reason to leave. He's the ideal rotational DM. 56% dual success rate last season, and he brings that discipline, he brings the structure off the bench. If you need to see a game out, you bring on Endo, and it largely works. Last season there was that thing where we didn't lose a game when he came on, which is a good thing to have. It's like people say, like the safety net or the comfort blanket. Every squad needs someone like that, who's maybe like James Milner, right? I look at him, maybe come on for Trent last 20, playing right back. He'd come on for Wijnaldum playing central midfield, or he could do a lot of things. And Endo even came on at right back last season when he didn't want to bring Trent on. He came on for Conor Bradley, didn't he? So he's very versatile. He's valuable in those tight physical away games or as a last-minute closer. So for those reasons, that'd be my cup rotation midfield, and I would prefer Stefan Bajcetic over Wataru Endo. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on who you'd prefer, but that's it for me. On to this man, Alexis McAllister, an absolute keep, no doubt one of our best players. He'll have to adapt again next year. I think his role is very interesting. Where do you think he'll play next year? You know, he's gone from a lone 6 2 years ago to a hybrid 8, now possibly playing alongside Gravenberch in a deeper 2 with attacking fullbacks. We can only speculate. I have no idea where he'll set up. I still think Gravenberch, as I mentioned, will play in a deeper role, and McAllister will be in front with Szoboszlai protect him. But I'd understand if it was the 2. I'd understand it because he's so crucial in our build-up, in how we dictate the game, and I think the drop-off from McAllister to Jones is pretty extreme. Look at these stats here, they're great, and I wish I put a stat in here in terms of passes attempted or made last season, successful passes, because 90% pass accuracy doesn't really tell you much. Don't know why I've put that in there. 11 goals and assists in all comps. That shows how he can get forward and he can go nick a goal when needed. 6 ball recoveries per 90. But in terms of passing, everything goes through him. I'd love to see a stat regarding his passes towards Gravenberch and that link-up, his passes received from the centre-halves and how he can spray it to the fullbacks, his link-up with Robertson. I think with Kirkes, we'll talk about in a second, that link-up I think will be extreme. And I look at Kirkes at Bournemouth, that triangle with Kirkes, the midfield player, whether it was Christie or whoever it was, and maybe a Semenyo, that triangle was brilliant. I think Kirkes, McAllister and Diaz, I can see that triangle working. I don't see him going onto the right midfield. I think that'll be maybe Curtis Jones, who will move towards the right side of midfield when he plays. If both of them play together, I think he will lock down that left-hand side. He has locked it down now, and I don't see anyone coming in, pushing him out of it. These new fullbacks, though, Kirkes and Frimpong, certainly Kirkes, obviously being on his side, Liverpool may build, well, they will, in my opinion, build wider and more vertical. McAllister will need to orchestrate from deep. I think he's got the ability to dictate the ball long and go long. Certainly with Trent, moving on, we're missing that ability to switch the play straight away. And I think McAllister dropping deep and pinging them balls into a Diaz or a Salah wide and far up the pitch, like Van Dijk can do, I think that'll be crucial. And he's going to fill that hole from Trent leaving, that void, because there's no one doing that now. And I don't think Frimpong will be the guy to do that. Frimpong's much more direct. He's much quicker. He will be further up the pitch. Frimpong won't be involved in the first phase a lot, like McAllister will be. So McAllister got a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, which I think he can absolutely take. He's the one to step up, isn't he? He's the he's one of the senior players in our team now, one of the leaders. I get the impression he leads by example a lot as well. I really am excited to see how it'll work this year. I just think we'll talk about a potential signing in a minute. Is there a lot on his shoulders? A lot of game time for him to play next year? Yes, the same as last year. Maybe we bring someone in to take the weight off. I think that's an option, definitely. We'll talk about Jones in a second. I think it'll be Gravenberch as a 1 and McAllister and Szoboszlai in front as a triangle. A lot of people saying we should do this as a 2, like last season. I just think it's so different from last season with Frimpong coming in. Can you see my mouse? I assume you can. Frimpong's going to be bombing on. Maybe even playing further forward than Salah at times. Salah's going to be much more narrow. Where's Szoboszlai meant to play here? With Wirtz playing in a similar role, I think Szoboszlai just plays deeper, and Gravenberch plays deeper. You need someone to cover the space, and I think Szoboszlai's running power is the thing to do that. So Gravenberch drops into that back 3. That's why I don't think it'll be a midfield 2. I think there's not enough protection there, certainly when Kirkes is getting further forward than Robertson last year. It's going to be a 2-4-4 that at times, and you need someone from me dropping in there, and Szoboszlai as well dropping in. We're a very good side. Like, people think, we're just going piss it and just like, let's get loads of men forward and no one's going to score. Yeah, mate, the team's going to get you. And they've got us last year. And we got away with it at times last year. One, because of how good Salah was at points and how many inevitable moments he had and how many important goals he scored. Can that be replicated again? Probably, but we just can't be too naive for me. We have to play a 1 and then a 2. Skip. Oh my God. Curtis Jones. Slot clearly likes him, certainly more than I think Harvey Elliott. He's played key roles in the running year before last. He's not a high volume creator really, but he helps kind of glue the attacks together. He's very good on the ball, great ball retainer, and he's confident in his ability to pick the ball up from deep and perhaps travel with it and move the ball from side to side, similar to McAllister. I don't think he's as good as McAllister at doing that. His dual percentage is low, 47.9%, but it's improving from previous years. He keeps it simple and safe. Likely the second choice left 8 behind McAllister. I think that's Jones, and he's an absolute keeper in my opinion. Different to Harvey Elliott, I think. We'll come on to Harvey Elliott now. He's a sell for me. I've done a video only yesterday. Go and watch that one. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because Brighton are preparing a £40 million bid as we speak. It's excellent. I mean, you've got to take that surely. Like, there's a point where loyalty gets overridden by a great offer, and I think that is the offer there. He doesn't pair well with Jones. We saw it at the back end of last season. They don't work together, in my opinion. He lacks the physicality. He doesn't win enough duels or as many duels as Jones. And I think ultimately you're comparing him and Jones. Like, one of them has to stay, one of them has to go. You're not going to get rid of anyone else. It has to be one of the two. And I just think in this system, he's the least favourable. Wirtz, Szoboszlai and Diaz will all take minutes in those creative spaces. And he's rarely trusted in those big games. I know last year he struggled with injury. He was meant to be playing in pre-season. Obviously, it didn't go in his favour and he struggled to get back in the side. But where's he meant to play? And I've got 3 diagrams on here. The top one showing maybe playing right central midfield, where I think, in my opinion, is his most preferable position, where I think he's the most effective as well. He's not going to play right wing like the middle one showing. 1, because he's not quick enough for me, and 2, because most Salah players there. And he's not going to play left midfield because McAllister's there and Jones is there. The only position he could really compete with is Harvey Elliott playing a right central midfield role. But Szoboszlai's there. So is it going to really replace Szoboszlai, start over him? For me, no. I think also Wirtz is there. They're quite similar profiles. Where's his role? Where's he meant to play in this team? I get that he's not meant to start, but if he's coming off the bench, is he meant to come off, play right central midfield where Wirtz and Szoboszlai could both play? Where Szoboszlai's likely going to play 90 minutes. It's like, yeah, for me, I don't really get it. I think he could start in the Cup. But then again, I spoke about my Cup rotation team with Bajcetic and Jones in there. I just think we're selling for £40 million, and the price tag's big. If you get £40 million, it don't matter if he fits in this team for me. I think you're just getting the value there, and you take the value, and maybe we'll talk later on about bringing someone else in to fill that hole. For me, Harvey Elliott is our first sell. I don't think he has any place in this team, not in a malicious way at all. I like him, but it just ain't really working for him. As it's not been working, and I think there's a player there, absolutely, of course, give him 2 or 3 years of playing every single week, but we said that last year and the year before. It's like, how many times can he... And it's not about him doing anything wrong, really. Yeah, at times, of course, he has, and he's been weak, but he can't get in the team. He's never going to get in the team, certainly with Wirtz signing, and he's stepping on his toes. Get him move away. It's better for him as well, like on a personal level in terms of growth. He has to be playing every week, and I think Brighton, he fits that team really well. A very possession-heavy side. They like to take risks, and I think he would really work at Brighton. Maybe James Milner, his ex-teammate, easing him in. Makes a lot of sense in my opinion, and starts every week there. Let's talk Dominic Szoboszlai now. He will likely start as that high right side 8, but Wirtz changes things. Wirtz won more final third possession regains than any other Bundesliga player last year. He presses high and smart. Expect Wirtz to play behind the front two. For me, Diaz and Salah, I think they'll play more narrow than last year. With overlapping Frimpong, and Szoboszlai and McAllister will likely sit behind them in a midfield too. I can't see any flaws with that. I know it sounds very simple on paper on a Word doc, but I just can't see that going too wrong because Szoboszlai is so good off the ball that you're not going to concede hopefully many, not goals, you're not going to let that many players go through you because we've got Wirtz, who's clearly a great player off the ball, Szoboszlai, who we know is a great player off the ball, Salah, who's a runner, Diaz is a runner. It's like, are there many holes in there? Really? I look at maybe Jones coming into the side, maybe last year. I could see the errors there. Maybe Nunes as well. I could see the flaws. I can't see many flaws in this side of the ball. So it's only a good thing, right, having Szoboszlai starting. I don't think he's done enough wrong to be dropped. You can't drop Szoboszlai. Yeah, maybe underwhelming amount of goals, contributions last year, but he was so instrumental to our side off the ball. You have to keep him. And he stays, and he has a great partnership for me with Wirtz next season. And that's how it works. And that's how it Wirtz. That didn't work at all. I just think, I've said this a few times, off the ball, the bottom one, on the ball, top one. Do you see what I mean? Locking onto that front four. He's done it last year, he's proven it. He can do it. The top one, playing on the right side of a midfield 3, he's done it before. He can do it again. He can link up with Frimpong and Salah. He can offer the legs and make up the ground when Frimpong gets forward. I think it's one of the best roles in this team. I think it's suited for a player specifically in Dominic Szoboszlai. Not many players in the league, I don't think, could do this role as effectively as him, and I've got so much confidence in him doing it, and I'm really excited for it. I think people saying he should be dropped are crazy, and I also think people saying, I mean, granted, by the way, if we get a striker, which I don't think we will, I've done a few vids on that why we won't, the main reason being, I don't think we could afford it. We spend a lot of money here on Wirtz, Frimpong, Kerkez, maybe a centre-half, Gehi, maybe a midfielder, and it's like, how much money we got to throw around. If Wirtz does play in an attacking midfield role and we do bring in a striker, Szoboszlai likely will be the guy to be dropped, which is with a heavy heart because he doesn't deserve to be dropped. But you could look at it in the harsh terms of him being dropped, or you could look at it in the positive term of him being rotated, which I'd like to take that approach in my opinion. Only a couple slides left now, just 2 or 3 I think. We'll talk about Florian Wirtz in sparing detail because we've spoken about this guy so much, we've got so many videos on him already. He played there at Leverkusen, kind of left of the attacking 3 with a really good relationship with Grimaldo. I think we could see similar things with Kerkez, I really do. I don't want to speak about him too much because we've spoken about him a lot. I just don't think particularly he's classed as a midfielder. And people need to take him out the midfielder category because he'll either play there, where he's playing on that formation at Leverkusen, or he'll play as a number 9, a false 9, or he'll play just behind the striker. I don't think particularly he's a midfield player. I have done a little graphic here of where I think each player should, or where I would I call this a squad planner, where I would rank each player in terms of the position. So, by the way, quickly, Tyler Morton. I've got a final sell, by the way. I've put him in my list. It was excellent on loan. I've got a mate who is a Hull fan who says he's really good. He doesn't see the pitch. Like, it's unfair on the guy. We're holding him back. I think you could get a bit of money back from him. And I think that actually is probably an understatement in terms of money. In terms of money floating around now as well, he could definitely get a move to a top championship side, maybe a lower Premier League side, because he deserves minutes. And at this stage of his development, I think it could really be a halting factor if we keep him at Liverpool for like these selfish reasons of maybe playing him in the cup. That's not what the guy needs. And maybe these loan spells as well ain't what he needs because he don't want to keep returning to Liverpool. Granted, he wants to be at the biggest club, right? he wants to start every week, and loaning him to a team every year, at what point does he become 35, having loaned to every team in the world? So, with Bajcetic back, as I mentioned here, Bajcetic is back. I think he'll even be moved further down the squad pecking order. He's playing for the under-21s England now, maybe putting his name more in that shop window. I think, not that he need to, but he's doing that. A move for Tyler Morton, for me, a sell in particular, would be ideal for both us and him, in my opinion. Just want to end it on this. Number 6, I think Gravenberch is our best number 6. I think McAllister is our second best. Granted, Bajcetic and Endo being number 6, I still think McAllister is a better one. He's done it before to a very high level. And I think in that first game when Gravenberch is suspended, McAllister will be the guy to fit in for me. And then maybe Jones and Szoboszlai play in the midfield. In terms of number 8, I think McAllister's our best number 8. I actually think Gravenberch is our second best number 8 in terms of as a complete player. Maybe you could argue Szoboszlai's there. Obviously, he is a number 8, like you'd like to think, and Gravenberch isn't specifically a number 8 as such, but I think he's played there in the past. He's done very well there, and I think he's got all the attributes to play either side of maybe a holding player in there. We've never seen Gravenberch, or certainly last year, not seen Gravenberch in that number 8 role. I think he'd be so good at it. I've gone McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones are my top 4. A fifth option could be maybe Bajcetic stepping up. A fifth option could be, Endo we're not going to see. Let's keep it to 4. And then your number 10's Wirtz, I think, is our best number 10. If he plays there, then Szoboszlai, then McAllister, then Jones. Any disagreements with that? Let me know your thoughts down below. I just want to end this whole deep dive off because my throat is hurting with a potential signing. I think there is one player we could potentially bring in. I've not really got a name, to be honest, just a profile. We're mostly covered, but positionally, I think we're probably one short, sorry. McAllister and Szoboszlai are both starters. Jones can cover both sides. And I think, actually, he'll cover the right-hand side a lot more this year because I think Elliott will look to leave. Therefore, Jones playing on the right-hand side with McAllister instead of McAllister, I think could be used. Gravenberch is still promising. I think that's an understatement, to be honest, promising. He's obviously been very good, but inconsistent over this season. I would say last season, the factor being he played so many games. If he doesn't play as many games, he's going to be less fatigued, more sharp, more match ready. So take that with a pinch of salt. I think next year that will be absolutely solved. We could really use, for me, a reliable box-to-box option off the bench. Maybe someone like a Wijnaldum profile who's so good in both halves, both boxes. Someone who presses very well, wins duels, carries the ball. I think of someone like a Thuram we've been linked to previously, or a Reinders who's just gone to Man City. Reinders, I'm so jealous of that signing. That man looks like he has everything, and he fits the exact hole that was made at Man City with a lot of these players leaving, De Bruyne, etc. He doesn't need to start. For me, just backs up McAllister and Szoboszlai. I'd like someone actually who's more physical in there, a bigger profile. Look at Curtis Jones and McAllister. They're not the biggest of players. Szoboszlai, yeah, of course, but he's not very fast. I don't think he's got... how can you word with Szoboszlai? He's very... he glides. I want someone who stomps. You know what I'm trying to say by that? I want some... I'm really proud of that, by the way. I want someone who moves like... a Thomas Partey. Just someone who's a bit more physical in there, who can give a bit when needed, because I think at times we can get caught out for being a bit too nice in the midfield. McAllister's got that bite about him, of course he has, but physically as a presence, he's not that. Elliott, the same thing as well. Endo, of course, is that, but he's this little man is great and all, but he's a small package, Endo, and he's going to do so much in there. If nobody comes in, I'm sure Gravenberch and Jones will step up, but that's the player I want to sign, a box-to-box midfielder who's a presence, who can run from both boxes, both halves. That's my thoughts. I'd love to put it to you now. What do you think? Where should we go now? My camera's about to die, so I'm going to go. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love you to leave a like down below. It's the best way of sharing some support and showing I'm doing something alright around here. Any comments, any feedback, people saying for me to slow down. I can't. I'm trying, but I've got so much to say. I'm sure I will slow down eventually, but I don't want to slow down to the point where you click off. Do you know what I mean? So I'm working on it. I'm sure it'll be better coming on the next few videos. Cheers for watching. Thank you. Subscribe if you enjoyed. See you later. Bye.